Hey folks, today I'm going to give you the lowdown on my experience with the GM Trailer Tire Pressure Monitoring System, or the GM Trailer TPMS. Basically, it solves the problem of being able to read and see the tire pressure on your trailer tires. In my case, my RV back here, it allows you to see all that in your truck on the infotainment system without any extra displays or wires. Just a really nice seamless integration. And my goal is to answer three questions. The first is, how difficult was it to install and set up? Second, have I encountered any issues with it? And then third, is it worth it? Worth the cost, the time, and so forth. So first, let me hit that first question. How difficult was it to install and set up? And because the sensors, they actually go inside the tires, this is not really a DIY project unless you have the proper tire mounting equipment. And it's not that expensive to pay a tire shop to do it for you. It's just more of an inconvenience, if anything, because you have to either temporarily jack up your RV, then take the tires off to bring to the tire shop, or of course you can drag the entire RV to the tire shop and have them do everything from start to finish. Now, I opted to remove the wheels myself and then just bring them to a local tire shop, just my personal preference there. It's really not that difficult, but you are gonna need 4 jack stands or just some way to keep the RV elevated, while the tires are gone there. And so it took me maybe all but 20 to 30 minutes to get all the tires removed. Now, what you're looking at here is the actual TPMS sensors that are provided by GM, and these were actually a line item on my build. I think it was only about 50 bucks if I recall, so pretty reasonable. But you can see they look like pretty standard TPMS sensors. I think they're very similar to the ones that are already in the truck and in pretty much every other modern car. Now, you can order these after the fact if you didn't get them with your truck, but you do need to have the trailering package that has the receiver for the TPMS on the truck in the first place, of course, to read in the sensors. And so these are what I took to the tire shop along with my tires. And so let me cut to that previously recorded footage and I'll show you what the pairing and the setup process looked like. Okay, so I was able to take the tires to a local shop today and get the valve stems installed with the TPMS sensors. And so here's what they look like installed on the wheels. Of course, there's a gasket on the inside, on the opposite side of the wheel, and then there's this kind of nut or collar tightening it down and keeping everything airtight. The shop didn't have any issues whatsoever getting them installed. I remember the last time I did this with my last fifth wheel, it was a Jayco Pinnacle combined with my Ram 3500. They had some issues getting the Ram provided valve stems with the TPMS to seal properly. And so I don't know if that was just a Ram thing with the TPMS sensors provided or just a wheel issue with the different profile wheels on the inside, but this go round, the shop had no issues whatsoever getting these to seal up properly, so that was great news. And so next I'm going to get them paired to the truck. Before I do that, I just want to talk briefly about balancing your trailer tires, and that's really not the whole point of this video, but I did want to touch on it. I know there's a lot of discussion. I think most owners nowadays agree that it's best to balance trailer tires, but if you talk to techs, tire techs and such, you'll get all kinds of different opinions there. But I'm going to share 2 reasons why I decided to have my trailer tires balanced. The first one is most tire shops, when you ask them to install these valve stems, that's not a typical install line item, and so typically they're going to bill this as mounting and balancing your tires. And so basically there's no additional charge from your perspective paying the tire shop to balance the tires, because that's just a standard line item, kind of a bundle that they provide there. So that's one reason. The second is, though, if you think about it, no matter how perfect this wheel and tire are, by the time I add this TPMS sensor here, it does weigh something. And so I think this is really interesting. I'm going to flip one of these over. And I actually checked all 4 of the tires. And if you look here, of course they had to use adhesive weights because these are aluminum rims. But if you look here on all the tires, all 4 of them, the weights are basically on opposing sides compared to where the valve stems are. So on this particular tire, you can see the valve stems right here, and the weights are all down here. If we go to this tire over here, we've got the valve stem up top, and then the weights on this guy you can see are kind of over in this vicinity. So, you know, not directly perpendicular or opposite necessarily, but the point I'm trying to make is that adds extra weight, and so I do think it makes sense then to compensate and have the tires, you know, properly balanced. Might as well while they're off the trailer, you know, and already in the shop. So anyway, that's why I decided to have mine balanced at the same time. But next, let's go ahead and get these paired up. And by the way, guys, this is the first time that I'm attempting to do this on my truck. It's very similar from what I understand to the way that Ram does it on their trucks. So on my last truck, but my understanding is you have to have the truck turned on and the trailer attached in order for you to get to the tire pairing screen. So I've got the trailer attached and we're getting the truck turned on here. Okay, so everything's booted up here. I'm gonna go to my trailering app off the home screen, and this is my default trailer. And so we're gonna go to tires, and then there's two options. So I'm gonna try doing the manual option first here, and then I'm gonna select 4 because I have a tandem axle. Target pressure, mine's a pretty light trailer, so 65 PSI. And so then those are the instructions. So basically you're gonna start at trailer tire number 1, 2, 3, 4, go in that order. And so that's how I've got them laid out in the back of the bed. And it basically says inflate or deflate until horn chirps about 10 seconds, and then repeat step 3, inflating or deflating for each tire. And you gotta do that order. So basically going around like that. So we're gonna hop back out. Well, I guess I need to hit start setup first. And we hear a chirp, a double chirp, letting me know that it's ready. So I've got everything laid out right here. So I'm gonna go up here to this first tire. Okay, there we go. So we got a chirp and the lights also flash. Now I'm gonna go back to this one. There we go. And then we'll go to the next one here. There we go. All right, this next one I'm gonna have to hop up a little bit. Okay, last one, and then it looks like it chirps double at the end. So I'll let you know that hopefully everything went successful. Okay, so then here's what we see on our screen. All trailer tires were learned successfully. And then of course it's showing, because I let a good bit out of each one, that they need to be increased there. So that was pretty slick. I mean, one shot, I didn't have any issues or anything. So we'll hit done. And there you go. So we've got the PSI, the temperature, and it's also showing me here in the EVIC in the center that I've got low pressure. So that's really nice. I like how it shows you in both places right there. So next I'll go ahead and fill the tires back up to the 65, get them mounted on the trailer, and then we should be good to go. All right, so now that all the tires are back to their recommended inflation, I just need to install them on the RV. And the critical step here is I gotta make sure I keep these all in the proper order, you know, left to right, rear to front, and then get everything torqued up. We'll plug up the truck one more time just to make sure before I let the RV down, and then we should be good to go. Now, as far as the final torque spec, this is going to vary based on your RV manufacturer and the wheels that they put on, but Grand Design has this nice chart right here that applies to my specific RV. And so I've got 1/2-inch studs, I've got cone lug nuts, and mine are aluminum wheels. They're 14-inch. So that tells me it needs to be 90 to 100 foot-pounds of torque. And so that's what I've got my torque wrench set to. Okay, so all the tires are back installed on the RV. I went ahead and hooked up the 7-way connector to the truck, and I'm just going to check one more time before I lower the RV off the jack stands and see if everything is reading in properly right here. So I just turned the truck on and plugged everything in, so it's still showing the old PSI, so there must be a little bit of a delay there. Let's go ahead and tap on that and just see what comes up there. Okay, so it still hasn't updated. It's been about a minute. I imagine there's some type of refresh rate, but while it's doing that, let me just show you what it looks like on the center cluster. I really like this, how they're telling me which tire it is, and then if I hit the dismiss button, it's going to show me the next tire. So it kind of shows you one tire at a time and tells you each one is low until you dismiss it. So I really like that, how they show it there in the center cluster, because you know, probably while I'm driving, I'll have Android Auto or some navigation right here. But then you can also get it to show up, I believe, over in this pane right here. Yeah, there we go. So I've got then a pane over here if I choose to put that on the tire pressure screen as well. Okay, so check that out. So one of the tires has updated. I actually just went back there and spun the tire. I'm gonna go ahead and try to spin that front tire and see if the same thing happens. Okay, so far just one of the trailer tires has refreshed and updated on the PSI and the temperature there. And I'm starting to remember now, on my last truck on the Ram, when I set the trailer tire TPMS, it had a similar deal where the tires would almost like go to sleep, you know, if the wheels weren't spinning, and so nothing would refresh until you start pulling that trailer and moving the wheels. So I'd imagine something similar. But since recording all the initial footage at the install, I've had several trips, and so I've been able to get a better feel for how the GM Trailer TPMS performs. And so with that, let me answer the second question, and that is, have I encountered any issues with it? And I'll just say right off the bat that it works as expected. I would say about 80% of the time or more. I've noticed on 2 occasions that it didn't update on 2 separate stints of towing for, I'd say, probably over an hour, where I had everything connected as far as the 7-way connector. The trailer was pulled up in the infotainment system, and yet it would show 0 PSI, and I think it was -4 degrees or something on the temperature. And so even after driving for an extended period of time, it just would not register. And I'm pretty sure the sensors, they probably go to sleep at some point, to save battery. But after I got to my destination, the next towing stint, when I disconnected everything, reconnected everything, then within a few minutes, it showed up again. And so I've only encountered those glitches, once in a while, but it seems to resolve itself after you connect and disconnect the trailer with the 7-way connector and such. That kind of seems to be what initiates the system to read the particular trailer, because with the GM trailering app, you can have multiple trailers, and that's how it knows to read in the TPMS sensors, since you could have several trailers, an RV and a utility trailer, for instance. All that to say, the glitches that I've encountered have been extremely limited, really just those 2 times that I can think of so far. And like I said, it seems to resolve itself on its own. In other words, I didn't have to reset or repair anything. It just worked the very next time. Now, certainly if you're watching this and you have the system, you have more experience with it than I do, definitely comment below and let us know, has it been working for you in your case? Have you had glitches? What have you done to troubleshoot in your case? So for me, it's worked flawlessly for the most part. Now, of course, while you're driving and the tires are heating up, the pressure is going to go up a good bit. The tires are warming up. That's completely normal. I'd say in my case, the pressure readings so far, they seem to be accurate within a few degrees, and so I'm really happy with that. Now, really, the only major dislike I have or suggestion for GM after using the system would be that the tire pressure for the trailer, it only shows up in the 13.4-inch infotainment system here in the middle, as opposed to the digital dash here, by the steering wheel, where I'm looking as I'm driving, where the speedometer, where the RPM and so forth are. Now, to be fair, if one of the trailer tires is running low on pressure, then it will show an alert in the digital dash here by the steering wheel. But if I just want to check the tire pressure, then I have to go through the 13.4-inch infotainment system, which is, off to the side. And the only reason I really bring this up as a dislike is because I had a previous truck. It was a 2021 Ram 3500 dually, and I also used Ram's version of the trailer tire pressure monitoring system. And the way Ram did it is they put everything right there in the digital dash, right there in the center as you're driving, where you're looking through the steering wheel there. And so when I'd be towing, granted that was a 1-ton dually, I was towing a 42-foot long fifth wheel, 17,000 pounds. But whenever I was towing, I would have in the center of my dash there, I would pull up the trailer tire pressure and pretty much have that screen running the entire trip, so I could keep an eye on the pressure on the trailer. And so I do miss that feature here on GM because I have to look at it through the infotainment system. Now, why is that such a big deal, right? I mean, am I just complaining about something that's minute? Well, let me explain further. If you've seen some of my other videos, then you know that I'm a big fan of GM's new 13.4-inch infotainment system. I really like it a lot. It is Google-based, which is separate from Android Auto, separate from Android, but it is Google-based. They have similarities. And the way it's set up is you have one big screen that you can make a map or the music that you're listening to, but then you can also split it, and you can have 2/3 of the screen showing a map, and then the other third of the screen showing something like the tire pressure for your trailer, right? Great idea, okay? The only problem with that is all within the Google-based infotainment system. If you're using Android Auto like I do, and I would imagine it's the same for Apple CarPlay, when you activate that Android Auto and use it, it takes up the entire screen. And yes, within Android Auto, you can show a map and your music, but it's within Android Auto, so you can't show the tire pressure then when you're using Android Auto. And again, I believe it's probably the same with Apple CarPlay. Certainly comment below if you're a CarPlay user and you know what I'm talking about here. But the downside of the way GM did it here is that if you're using Android Auto, then to see the tire pressure, you have to get out of Android Auto, go back into the Google-based infotainment system, and then you can see it, whether it's on that 1/3 panel, the 2/3 panel, or taking up the full screen, right? And so for me, as I'm driving, I'm using Android Auto most of the time. And so I would love to be able to see that trailer tire pressure in a way that doesn't require me to have to go out of Android Auto back into the Google infotainment system. It's just a little, messy there, extra steps. So I'd love to be able to see the trailer tire pressure here on the digital dash, right through the steering wheel as I'm driving. Just a suggestion maybe for a future software update. And so really, I think the system would be complete or perfect if the trailer tire pressure that shows up right here, if that would be displayed just like the truck's tire pressure. I think that would really complete the system for me. It would be perfect, but definitely let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Otherwise, guys, in terms of experiencing glitches, like I said before, it's been very reliable. I've had probably about a dozen or so instances to test it out as of the recording of this video. And other than those two that I mentioned earlier in the video, it's been very reliable. It'll sync up and it'll start providing readings, the pressure, the temperature throughout the trip. And really, that's the whole point of the system. And so with that, let me get to the last question, and that is number 3, is it worth it? And for me, it cost me $50 on the build sheet for my truck to get those TPMS sensors, and then about $100 at the tire shop to have the trailer tires, mounted and balanced with the TPMS sensors installed. And so all in, I'm at about $150, of course, plus my time and effort. But now that it's done, it's always going to be ready to use when I'm towing. There's no display I've got to set up. There's no clutter on the dash. There's no extra plugs that I've got to connect. It just works. And so I'm a big fan of keeping things simple like that. And so I definitely think it is worth it between the cost and the effort involved. I like the seamlessness of the system and the way it integrates. It's just one less thing that I've got to remember or worry about setting up, each time that I'm towing. And of course, time is money ultimately. So yeah, I definitely do it all over again. Well, guys, I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions, definitely drop me a comment below and I'll do my best to answer them. I'm also going to be doing a video in the future on the GM trailer camera setup, and so definitely stay tuned for that one. As always, thanks for watching.